grand finale. Here we go, waiting for it, and we are good to go. Hey guys, how you going? Today on BKRsport. Season's over, baby. The season is over, and we have obviously crowned our champions, the Penrith Panthers. Congratulations to them. Obviously, as you guys know, this is the first live stream since we were at the grand final on Sunday. I didn't live stream the grand final. I was there at the game. The vlog is out. That came out, I think, yesterday or the day beforehand. It was the cemetery over in the Parramatta end, obviously, and it was nice and crazy over there in the Penrith with the Penrith fans. So congratulations to them. Obviously, you know, we've all seen how they acted. It's not really surprising, but we're not really going to be talking too much about that today. Today, guys, we're actually going to be going into our top 8 grading. So if you haven't seen our bottom 8 grading, we actually have already done that already. That was just a normal video. This is a live stream because I want to invite you guys to join in with this one as well. But yeah, we're going to be going through predictions pre-season, then giving a grade based on where they finished, I guess pre-season thoughts. There's a lot of things that have to go into it. Sometimes it can be harsh though, because sometimes teams can finish above other teams and actually receive a lower grade because of the fact that they just simply, their expectations are a lot higher. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. So obviously get amongst the chat, let us know what you guys are thinking, and obviously get involved. We've got Rugby League World Cup content starting up tomorrow as well. But guys, obviously hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new around here, and let's see a couple of things in the chat before we get going here. Mythic Class is Hammer of the Dolphins. The Dolphins, they're just a wish Gold Coast. Zampire says, no way, stream, is it Christmas already? Mate, it's pretty much Christmas already. Session Gellin says, I'm sad the NRL finals season is over because now we have to go back to watching teams like the Knights and the Dragons. Yeah, to be technically speaking, obviously that's still a good 5 months away though. We're in we're in October, yeah. I think we're in October, yeah. We're in October, so November, December, January, February, March. We've got 5 months until the new NRL season, but we do have a whole World Cup coming up in about a week and a bit's time. So you've definitely not got too much longer before some rugby league content. However, it's unfortunately going to be at terrible times for everyone here in Australia. Good luck. I'll be up for every game. Every single Rugby League World Cup game will be live here on BKRsport. But it's they're shocking times, lads. Australia play games at 3 in the morning and stuff like that. That's the unfortunate thing with having the World Cup in countries in the Northern Hemisphere. The biggest shakes that we allowed to share our own opinions on grading. Absolutely, man. That's the whole point. That's the whole point of doing a live stream. If I didn't want your opinions, then I wouldn't be doing a live. I'd be just doing a normal video like the last one. Bright Roberts says that Oz Squad Holy Dooley. We'll get into that one tomorrow. But alright guys, let's get to the first one here. Like I said, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're around here, and let's get into the first one. So the first team that we do have to go over here is the Canberra Raiders. Now, pre-season, I had them at 12th. I thought they were going to be at a lot of points actually. If you go back to the beginning part of the season, the Raiders actually were looking like they were going to come last. If you go back to the first 4 or 5 weeks, I remember a lot of people thought they were going to come last. They obviously turned it around massively. They did make the 8. I just want to go on here to the NRL.com website just to check a few things out. But they did make the 8. However, you also have to take into consideration that the only reason they did make the 8 is because the Broncos had an absolutely gigantic collapse that no one would have expected to come. Realistically, you should be looking at the Raiders in 9th right now. We're not going to do that because obviously they did come 8th. But realistically, you should be looking at them in 9th because not every year you're going to see a collapse as bad as the Broncos did to where they were up by with 3 games to go. Plus 150 points differential and up by 2 or 3 wins to getting knocked out and from that stage. It's crazy to me. It's wild to everybody. But yeah, you go and have a look at how the Raiders went this year. Most of the time, they were pretty bang on average, but really started to get a bit of a chug going in that middle part of the year. Started off with a win against the Sharkies before they lost to the Cowboys. Came back against the Titans. They were down 22-4 in that game, then obviously came back to win 24-22. A story of the Titans season. Got pumped by Manly, got pumped by the Storm, got beat by the Cowboys, got pumped by the Panthers, got beat by the Warriors. At the beginning part of the season, they were dreadful. It wasn't really until, the Sharks game. They took on the Sharks, and they beat them 30-10 in Cronulla. It was actually at Magic Round, where they started to get their good momentum going forward because they won a game against the Sharkies, then the Rabbitohs, lost to the Eels in a competitive game there at GIO, but they beat the Roosters, and from there on out, they had a pretty good record overall. So lost the Dragons there, though, which is really strange to me, to be honest with you. The Rays had an okay season. It wasn't anything spectacular, that's for sure. It wasn't anything wild. And I think that they probably would have expected, based on my prediction, you'd probably give them a B, because I had them at 12 and they did come into the 8. But I think that overall, I'm going to say it's just a pass mark. I'm going to say here that it would just be a pass mark for me as a C. Because the Raiders were in a grand final in 2019. They would have expected to do a lot better than last season, and I don't think that this season was a lot better than last season. Yes, they beat the Storm in the first week of finals. I honestly think that no matter who played the Storm in that game, they were going to beat the Storm. It just seemed like there was an impending loss for the Melbourne Storm coming for a long time, and we got there, and then the Raiders did it. And I just think that most teams would have been able to do that, and then obviously the next week, the Raiders got absolutely pumped by the Eels in the second week. So it's definitely a pass mark. They made the 8, and they competed in the first week, but as soon as they come up against some real opposition, the Parramatta Eels, they got absolutely trounced. So I'm going to give them a pass mark. I don't think it was a spectacular season, but I think it was an okay season for Canberra. Trucking Dana says, yes, what's no? There you go. By the way, thank you, Trucking. By the way, thank you. You know what I'm talking about. B Shaq says, I'd say C+. Actually, no, C. Yeah, that's what I've gone with here, man. I've just got just a straight up pass mark. Just a straight up pass mark here. Foxy33 says, you could say the Raiders should be in 9th, but you can't really discredit their season. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could say that, but I'm not saying that. But it's just that you do have to weigh that in as well, if you know what I'm saying. But you can't really discredit their season that much because they were able to knock out some of the finals. Yes, agreed. And I guess you maybe could give them a C+ based on that thought process that they did knock out a team in the finals. They were in 8th and knocked out a 5th place team, and especially considering it was in Melbourne. But like I said, for me, I believe that any team beats Storm on that day. I just feel like there was an impending loss coming. You know, they had injuries galore. Brandon Smith last game, he didn't care for most of this season, to be completely honest with you. The looming contract over Munster, still going, by the way. We're still waiting. I honestly believe that if Munster was going to stay, he would have re-signed already. He would have re-signed months ago. Because otherwise, you know, you get to this point where now you just continue, the teams are always thinking about it. The teams, are you staying next year? What's happening next year? Are you going to be here? Are you actually with the club or against the club? I think Munster would have re-signed already. So I think this was also looming around. I just don't feel like the Storm were going to beat anybody on that day for me. Twiggins says, C- for the week, got a dog comment. Jeez, we're still going on about that. Lucas says, I'd say C is harsh, C+. That's never going to stop, to be honest with you. I'd say C is harsh, C+ to B- is more realistic considering they did make the 8 and win a finals game. I just think the Raiders should be expecting more though, man. I really do. I had them for 12, but I just feel like the Raiders should be expecting more. Charles Rucker says too much hype around Savage. I think Savage is a good player. I still think it's just very early though, is what I would say. I'd say it's very early. Again, watch something email says the only teams that get an A is Panthers and Cowboys. Big Brick says Raiders have had a pretty good season. I'll give them a B for the season. B though, a B is like a pretty damn well good season. Like a B is you. This is what I'm saying. Like based on my prediction, 12 through 6th isn't usually a great deal of massive old difference, I guess, in regards to what you have pre-season. Anyone from 6th through till 12th usually end up in a really similar position. But still, like that shouldn't be the case. I know, I'm going to leave it as C. I'm going to leave it as a pass mark, but I understand what you guys are saying as well. If they won those stupid games against those bottom 8 teams in round 8 and 16, they would have done so much better. Yeah, but they didn't. That's the point. They didn't do that. So it goes back to the same situation with the Broncos. Like they should have made the 8, but they didn't. The Raiders made the 8 based on that. But overall, there you go, guys. So that is the Canberra Raiders there. All right, let's move this down here. And let's get our next team up here. Who is going to be the next team? And that is going to be the Sydney Shooksters. Hello, son. The Sydney Roosters here. Now, they obviously finished in the 6th position. And I predicted them for 2nd. A lot of people had them predicted for the 1st. I don't think anyone had them predicted out of the top 4. Because this team, yeah, that's right. Because I remember in the preseason predictions video, I said I can see a world where this team is not as good as they look, right? I can see a world where maybe we might be looking at this team and expecting a bit too much. I didn't believe that world was going to happen, but I guess that was proven right because they did finish down there in 6th position and were lucky to make the 8. Obviously, halfway through the season, everyone counted them out from the 8 and they got a good chug going. I kept saying they're going to make the 8, going to make the 8, going to make the 8. They did make the 8. Now, they got knocked out by the Rabbitohs in week 1, actually. Jeez. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one for me to give these guys a positive rap, considering that they were expected to do really, really well this year. Let's go have a quick little look-see at their draw. It wasn't really a season crazily impacted by injuries. I guess the Storm could be the only one that you really look at for an injury-ridden season. But if you go back and have a look at that game 1 against the Knights, they never had any preseason, right, with their team. So that was always relatively expected there. But that should pretty much have told you how this Roosters team was going to go this year. Like that is a pretty poor result to start off with. Yes, they beat Manly, then they lost to Rabbitohs, and then they beat Cowboys, beat Broncos, beat Warriors. They went on a bit of a run there. Lost the Dragons on Anzac Day, though. This team just were very 50-50 throughout the season. 44-16 against the Titans, 31-24 against the Eels, but then get trounced by the Panthers, right? And then trounce the Sharkies. Then they'll go lose to the Raiders, and then they'll go lose to the Storm. And they'll go lose to the Eels, and then, they go and absolutely pump the Dragons. Literally, 54-26, and then 9th, 42-12, 20-10 of Manly. This team was so 50-50, man. Based on expectations for this team that everyone had, based on the way that the season did unfold, I am going to give these guys a harsh mark. I'm going to give these guys a harsh mark because they expect better. This club is built on success. I'm going to give them a fail. I don't care. I don't think that's a pass mark for them. They get knocked out first week of finals. Most people had them in top 2 pre-season. What part about that is a pass mark for the Roosters? Maybe for a team like the Titans, that's an A year. That is nearly a buddy B plus or an A minus year for the Titans. But this isn't the Titans we're talking about here. This is the Sydney Roosters, a team that had won back-to-back in 2018-2019, a team that year in, year out is a competitive team. This team got knocked out first week of the finals and got embarrassingly knocked out after they had a really good run up until that stage and actually beat the Rabbitohs the week beforehand. It just wasn't a year for them. I've got them as a fail for me. Get my something now says Roosters C. Biggie Shack says D. Exactly right. Well, that's a fail. Exactly right. Zane Potter says B- based on the potential they have. B-. B- is big call, man. B- is a big call. B- is a good season, man. Like anything that involves a B is at least a pretty good mark. I don't think that was a good year for the Roosters at all. Fox33, especially considering I had him in second as well. Foxy33 says if you give Rays a C, you have to give Roosters a D. Well, that's exactly what I just did. Well, that's exactly what I just did, big fella. And also, like I said, you have to take into account what these teams' individual stories are, right? And the individual expectations going into a season, belief going into a season, and general consensus going into a season, right? The Raiders are going to get completely different marks, pass marks and foul marks to the Roosters with completely different pass marks and foul marks. You really shouldn't be comparing pass marks and whatnot in this regards because we have to take a lot of stuff, we have to take a lot of things into account. Dimitri Stratus says C+, is crazy to me. Bing Brick says the Roosters losing was shameful to their fans in week 1. Zane Potter says they ended very well, like with those wins against the Storm, Cowboys. Let's go and look here at that schedule again. I understand they did end up finishing off the season quite well, but they still got to the big Papa game and got pumped. That was a good end of the season, and they did score 72-6 over the Tigers. I don't know. I expect a lot better from the Roosters, and I think the Roosters would expect a lot better from themselves. And for a team to be in the top 2, top 3, like you guys are entitled to your opinions. If you guys have them as a C+, B-, B+, if you want to, that's your opinion. Obviously, this is more my opinion, but I'm happy to get you guys involved in the chat. That's the whole point about this. But for me, I just feel like I'd be giving them a foul marker there. But yeah, they did beat the Rabbitohs 2 weeks prior. Week prior. Beat the Storm. The Storm were pretty average, but that 32-18 win over the Cowboys was pretty good. I do remember that one. But yeah, didn't win a premiership, didn't make top 4, didn't make second week finals, and really had to rely on their late season form to get into that top 8. That's just what I'm saying. So I'll give them a fail, but that's just my personal opinion. Foxy says, no, you gave them a fair mark. Nozza says, I think for Roosters a D-. No, we got a fail. It's just simply fail. Dimitri tries to reckon C because it was an average season. Blunted Ray says they have too many hotheads in their 4-pack. Lodge, Jalroy, Hargraves, and Radley. Alright, let's move on to the next one here, guys. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you are new around here. But let's go on to the next team here. And that team is going to be someone soon when I can get this team up here. Oh, the big boys, the big boppers. Bang, bang. It's the Penrith Panthers here. The winners of the competition. So let's just go very simple here. Like you can't be silly with this one. You can't be silly with this one. It's an A+. Like it's just straight up. It was a fantastic season for them. Never looked like losing it. Never looked like they weren't going to win the competition. Besides when they were in the first half against the Gold Coast Titans, just want to throw that out there. We actually led the Panthers 4-0 at half time. Thanks for coming. It's not every day that a team can lead the Penrith Panthers, and we did it. So we might have lost that game, but to me, we won in our hearts. We won in our hearts. I now clicked on the Titans. I didn't mean to go and click on the Titans. Sure. But Panthers obviously started off with a nice win over Manly 28-6, and didn't actually. There were 2 wins, 3 wins, 4, 5, 6, 7, Actually, did they only lose to the Eels this year? Cowboys game doesn't count because they had 11 players out. So use Cowboys, but I think they only lost to the Eels. They lost the Eels there. I don't think they lost to anybody else, did they? They lost to them both times in the regular season too. Eels. No, they lost to the Storm 16-0, but I'm pretty certain that was during... no, it wasn't. Well, that could have been during Origin, maybe. Shit, I don't know. Put him out of Reese Pants had a great season. The way... I want to put this out there now. Considering we're doing a season grading here, we can talk about the season. Guys, the Panthers won the competition. They can react however they goddamn want to react, right? The only issue that I have overall, if you're following me on Instagram, BKRsport, you would know that I have an issue with how Apicotosau was treating of the Tigers. I don't really give a shit what Stephen Crichton does or what Jerome Luai does or Fisher Harris does. For me, they're making it about why everyone else is not good and not actually celebrating their own success, which is a bit shit to me. It's like, you do you, but it just makes me feel like you guys aren't really appreciating the success for yourselves and you're more appreciating the success out of hatred for everybody else. And I think that's a socio-economic kind of thing, but that's just my personal opinion, right? So I don't really give a shit how the Panthers react. They can tell the Eels they suck and all this blah, 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 wank on about everyone else is bad. Cool. And not my problem, right? I'll just do me. But the only issue that I do have is Apicotosau disrespecting his new club that he's going to. And just to kind of wrap that up as well, if you don't want them to be arrogant and you don't want to see this ego that they do obviously have, then don't let them win. Like, next year, you have to come out and smack them. Eels, you're getting disrespected to absolute shit right now. You better come out there and beat them next year. Whoever knocks them out in the finals, like Panthers fans, don't be surprised when your team gets an unloading of hatred towards your team when you get knocked out next year, the year after, whenever you do. You know, congratulations on your success. You deserved it. Your best team, back to back. Congratulations. I was there with you guys, celebrating it on the other side. Obviously, not really celebrating it, but I was over there with you guys when you were holding up the trophy and whatnot. Great to be a part of. But just don't be surprised. Anyway, long story short, Panthers, A+ season, no doubt about it. All right, let's go. Yeah, it was during Cleary's 5-match suspension. B Shacks is A+, obviously not taking into account their post-grand final antics. Not the point. Blunder raises F for being arrogant and classless. I will say, you're obviously a Storm fan. There is a difference, and this is why I say it's a socio-economic kind of thing, because Panthers and Eels, and I feel like Tigers too, if they were ever successful, react differently to how Melbourne have, Brisbane have, North Queensland have, and most of the Sydney teams, you know, in the eastern side, south side. But I just want to throw it out there. It's just my personal opinion, and it's not denigrating whatsoever. It's just for me, it's been more about why you're not successful compared to we're the best. It's just kind of how I've taken it. Lucas says F because Luai's on their team. Turgan says we lost to Storm once. Another says because of Eels. Bink Brooks says A+, the best season they have ever had. Yeah, I agree. Every game but the game back against the Eels was stunning. Oh man, that grand final, no team beat them. And I compare it with the AFL, right? I'm a Geelong fan. Geelong won that grand final, not Sydney Swans losing it. The Panthers won that grand final, not the Eels losing it. I don't think that many teams in the last 20 years could beat the Panthers on a given day. And I don't think that many teams in the past 20 years could beat Geelong on that given day. I just think that this year in the AFL and the NRL was one of those years where the winner was just dominant throughout, and you've got to respect that. You've got to respect it. Zane Potter says, had an A+ mark since round 1 and never changed the whole season. I agree, Zane. Zakor says, hi, can you wait until October 15, the NRL World Cup playing in England? Can I wait till October 15? Bro, I'm streaming. I'm streaming every single game. Biggest shout. Are you saying you can't wait? Or are you saying cannot? I think you're saying you can't wait, or can I not wait? It should be good. I hope that's what you're saying, bro. Biggest Shack says it was during Cleary's 5-match suspension that they lost 16-0 to the Storm. Big Brick says it was because they had Edwards, Luai, and Cleary out. Oh, fair enough, yeah, that's right. Bright Roberts says Paul Kent whinging during Origin, but there was no chat. Panthers then talk shit and he blows up about it. I agree. I understand what Paul Kent's saying. I will throw that out there. I don't disagree with either side here, right? I just don't disagree with how the Panthers have reacted, because it's not me to tell you how to react, right? If you want to react that way, be my guest. We're not champions. If the Titans won the premiership, I just want to throw this out there. If the Titans won the premiership, I wouldn't be like the Panthers. And I don't think many Titans fans would be like it. It would be about us celebrating our community and us celebrating our team. I wouldn't give a shit about the Broncos. I wouldn't give a shit about Manly. I wouldn't give a shit about Parramatta or Penrith or New Zealand, Melbourne, North Queensland. I don't care. You know, the Wish Raiders of the Gold Coast and Redcliffe. I don't care. It's about why our community deserves what it does, not about why you don't deserve it. And that's how I've taken this Penrith situation. So that's the only thing with me. But like I said, who am I to tell people how they can react to winning the premiership? Senpai says it's just like when the Titans win the premiership, who are you to tell me how to react to it? You know what I'm saying? But I understand why people are upset as well. I do get it. Senpai says the only issue is how Appy said shit about the club he's joining. Yeah, stupid, man. Jasper says, are you doing Premier League this week? Possibly. Lucas says, oh, that's gone. Sam Potter says, everyone's saying they didn't celebrate Edwards winning the medal is ridiculous. They obviously were. The cameras showed him walking off and not the team who would have been cheering him on behind. I'm kind of confused about that though. I will say that. That was confusing to me because it did seem like there was a little bit of shade. I felt like maybe it was one of those, like in baseball when you hit a home run, your first ever home run, a lot of the time all the people in the dugout or your players in the dugout will actually run into the dugout and hide. As a bit of a joke. I kind of got that feeling at first, but I just don't know, man. I don't know how to take that situation. It was just really unnerving to me. I don't know. Like, celebrate with your boy. Like, make it public. Celebrate with your boy. I know it happened afterwards, but maybe that's because they realised the people noticed that. I don't know, man. Just for me, a little bit weird. A little bit weird for me from the Panthers. But anyway, guys, that's a A+ there for the Panthers. Congratulations. Definitely deserve it as the premiers. And we now move on to the next team. Alrighty, guys. Like I said, smack this thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. By the way, do you want me to stream my group stages previews, or would you rather me do videos from my group stage previews that are coming out this week? Let me know. But alright, next team here. What we're going to be doing is the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here we go. Alright, so the South Sydney Rabbitohs here. Brighton says stream. Alright, yeah, it's a good shout because it does get you guys involved, obviously. Alright, so the South Sydney Rabbitohs, they had a pretty good year. This is a hard one actually for me because I think they had a pretty good year. There were definitely down moments, and especially when Latrell wasn't there, this team was a shell of itself. The Rabbitohs, obviously, they came in 7th. I actually correctly predicted that to the spot. I said Rabbitohs in 7th. I got a lot of those top 8 incorrect. Most of them in the 8, obviously, except for Buddy Boom and Buddy Boom. But I got that one on the dot, so I'm pretty happy with that prediction. So it basically means they had a season that we all expected of, for me anyway. They obviously lost Wayne Bennett coming into the year. They lost Adam Reynolds coming into the year. And yet they still got to the exact same position, the preliminary finals, which no one expected them, especially after that first game against the Broncos that I was at. And then especially just how the season kind of transpired for the next little part. But like I said, when Latrell was there, this team was a team possessed, man. They got off to a really poor start in those first 2 games. But then again, that game against the Storm in round 2, I remember that was one of the best games of the season. That was a phenomenal. I think Pappenhausen was it little Buppy who kicked the field goal there in like the 79th. Oh, and it was extra time, I think. Yeah, it was. No. Yeah, 82nd minute of extra time. That's right. It was a fantastic game. It was a fantastic game. They started off the first part of the season actually 1-3, but they had a really tough run there. You know, Broncos at Suncorp, Storm at Amy, their biggest rivals in the Roosters at Accor, which they did win, mind you, and then the Panthers in Penrith. That's a tough run. They were 1-3, so not many people would have been thinking that. Lachlan Ilias was their half, obviously. Cody Walker wasn't feeling it. Overall, they really struggled for the most part. And they lost to the Tigers in round 7. Now, that was a game, son. That was the first Tigers win of the season. That was a pathetic performance there from the Rabbitohs overall. But then again, the Tigers did do that to the Eels as well. It wasn't really until after... Which game was the one that we really saw them? Which game was the one? I think it was after the bye, maybe. When they beat the Titans 30-16. And then, no, it would have been when they beat the Eels. That's the one. When they beat the Eels in round 16, we knew this team could do something, right? Because they beat them 30-12. Then they smacked the Knights. They smacked the Dogs. They beat the Storm. They lost the Sharks by 1. They smacked the Warriors. They smacked the Eels. Only just lost the Panthers. But there is a bit of context there. You have to also know that with that game is that there was no Cleary, no Luai. 1 second here, guys. I'll get back to the sec. Brighton Robinson with the $20 donor. I appreciate it, my guys. As I'm sure this chat would agree. Get around streaming it. Cheers, mate. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much for the $20 donor as well. Even though you're a Broncos fan, you're a good bloke. Sometimes. Most of the time. But you're still a Broncos fan, so it's just like... But thank you very much for the $20 donor, bro. I appreciate it. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty good season for the Rabbitohs. And look, they got through to the prelim final as well, like I said, which they eventually lost to the Penrith Panthers. I think they probably beat the Eels, to be honest with you, if they played in the prelim. Great record against the Eels. I kept saying to you guys, the winner of the grand final comes from this game. The Panthers Rabbitohs. Panthers obviously won it. And yeah, so I'm going to give them a B+. I'm going to give them a B+. I think this was a pretty good year for them. I don't think it was perfect. I don't think that it was the greatest year ever for them, but I think it was a very good year for them, and I'm pretty happy to give them a B+ personally. So let me know your thoughts in the chat. We love the streams. So Brown says, Bonds Ray says B. Lucas says B+. Big Shack says A-. Love to hear what you say A. I think that realistically for me, the only way I give an A is if your team has had a gigantic change of direction from your preseason kind of prediction, or you make the grand final. I don't know how. I don't think I could give them an A. I don't think I could give them an A. A-, A+. All three are still very, very good. The Rabbitohs still only finished 7th, man. They didn't finish in the top 4. They got to the prelim. That's cool, but yeah, it's still very 50-50 season in a lot of regards. But it was a positive season based on the fact that they lost Wayne Bennett and Adam Reynolds, and still Rabbit gets the preliminary final for me. It did the exact same thing they did with Wayne Bennett and also Reno. Lucas is B+. That's what I've gone. Noah says Rabbit C+. I think it's a bit low for me. I think it's a little bit low, especially considering they got to the prelim. Jasper says it is easy for you to stream because you don't have to edit. It is right. Yeah, it is right, to be honest with you. Biggie Shack says, given how much talent they lost, I'd say the season was pretty good. Yeah, exactly right. Demetrius Shire says B because they were able to make it to the prelim. They definitely had some down moments, but were a powerful team at the end. Absolutely. Sam Potter says B. They played some awful wooden spoon type footy in the early parts, but Trell returned, saving them, and they played some incredible footy. Aren't you a Rabbitohs fan, Zane? If I'm not mistaken, are you a Rabbitohs fan? But I agree. They did play some awful footy at the beginning of part of the season, especially that game against the Broncos. But yeah, Trell returning did obviously turn that season around and turn that team around. Somebody says, man, that round 1 game was so good, that Catewell field goal, though. That was a shocking game. What you talking about? That was so good. Both those teams were dreadful in that game. It was like 11-4 or some shit. What are you talking about? It was a good field goal, though. I will give you that. It was a good field goal, but what she's talking about, that was a good game. That was a shocking game. Somebody says, man, that round 1 game, that's right, I read that comment already, shit. But Jasper says the Tigers beat the Eels first, I think. Oh, there you go. Charles Rocker says, stream your group stage previews. No worries, bro. Somebody says, amen, Brighton. Jared Choice, pretty good season for South considering they lost Reynolds. Brighton Roberts says, kicked it hard at the end. Biggie Shack says, kicked hard at the end. Biggie Shack says, they probably could have had a chance at winning the prelim if they didn't leak 2 tries before half-time and Milne was sent from the field. Whilst, yeah, you know, that's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes for me. You know, they did do it, and like I kept telling you guys throughout the season, Panthers can turn a game on its head in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute. Like, what the Panthers did there is what they did all season. They can beat the ball for a little bit, but overall, they're going to grind it out of you. And look what happened with the Eels in the grand final. You know, the first 5 minutes was all Eels, really, for me. I think they were really physical, but then after that, Panthers just dominated the shit out of them, right? And in that Rabbitohs game, the Rabbitohs did do well for the first 35, but then the Panthers went bang, and there you go. You know, from being down 12-0 to being 12-12 at the half-time, and the Rabbitohs won the attack. They made a bad mistake, so, you know, it's just what the Panthers do. So, like, it's all if, buts, and maybes. If the Rabbitohs did this and the Panthers didn't do this, then they would be there. So, yeah, I've got a B+ for them. Got a B+. Zane Potter said, I'm interested to see how they go next year. I think people are starting to overrate them a bit next year at this moment. Obviously, I'm not doing a preview yet. Wait for the World Cup, wait for next year. I hate doing previews for the next year until we're into that year, right? But I think people are starting to overrate them a little bit. But I am interested to see how they go. You're absolutely right. Jasper says we beat the Rabbits twice. Brighton says, yeah, how would South have gone 12-0 up at the half? If they were up 12-0 at the half, I still feel like they lose, but it would have been a much more positive game for them, obviously. But that's obvious, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'll go Rabbitohs B+ there. And now let's move on to the next team. I think that's halfway through, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go and put them there. And up the Nulla, baby. We've got Cronulla. The Cronulla Sharks is here. Who had a very, very good year, to be honest with you. I predicted them for 8th. I still had them in the top 8. But the Sharks obviously ended up in 2nd position in the top 4. A bit of a weird year, though, for the Sharks because they were very good in parts. Like, very, very good. But at the end of the season, similar to the Cowboys, these two teams had a very similar year in regards to a couple of aspects. Cowboys a bit better, but Sharks and Cowboys they were so good for a large part of the season, and in the last couple of games, they started to kind of slow it down a little bit and not look as great overall. And then the Sharks obviously continued that form into the finals, whilst the Cowboys turned it around a little bit. Obviously, they play each other in that final. And the Sharks got bounced out in straight sets, which was really tough for them. You know, it was really tough for them, considering that they were looking like they were going to have such a quality season. They played the Cowboys, get beaten at home after being up by 8 with like 7 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go. And Valentine Holmes being the guy to kill them. The guy who obviously led them to a premiership last time out in 2016, their only premiership. And then you've also got the second game where they took on the Rabbitohs, and Rabbitohs flogged them, absolutely flogged them there. So, and it was just some lazy defense, really. You guys know me from my infamous bloody halftime spray of, was it Teague Wilton? Or who was it? It was some bloke on the Sharks team that I just went off at. I saw heaps of clips on YouTube about it. But fair enough, really. It was bullshit. It was bullshit them, the Sharks. Let's go have a look here at the draw to see how kind of they went throughout the season. We'll go like that. And we'll go over here. So yeah, they started off with that loss to the Raiders, and then they beat the Eels. They had a really actually positive start to the season. They were 4-1 after 5 rounds. Lost to the Storm. That was because that's right, 4-1, and everyone was starting to say like, is this team the real deal, or are they still not just there yet? That Storm game at that point was the time we were like, oh, this is going to tell us a lot, and bang, they lost. And I remember being like, this is what I was telling you, they're still not really there yet. They did go on to have a very good season. I know they lost that game to the Broncos, 16-7, which wasn't great for them. Really poor performance from the Broncos, the Sharks overall. But yeah, they continued on with the season and ended up coming in second. I'm pretty happy with the season for them. I know that they got knocked out in straight sets. I'm going to go with it being, and this is what I said before, it might be confusing for you. I'm going to go B. I'm going to B. This team was out of the 8 last year. They came 9th and ended up coming second, so it's definitely a positive mark. The only reason I'm giving them a B+ is because there still is a lot of question marks about this team. They had a Dally M winner in Nico Hines, who was incredible, but there's still a lot of question marks for me about their attack and defense actually meshing well with each other. It was really good to see the defense being focused on a lot more with Craig Fitzgibbon, their new coach. It was really good to see kind of how they were a brand new team from their very attacking team with no defense the last couple of years. That was under Johnny Morris. But it really does leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth the way they ended the season and then to get knocked out in straight sets, which is something that you just can't have when you're a second place team and just straight bang, bounced. So I'll go B, positive season, but I honestly think the Rabbitohs had a more positive year than the Sharks did. And then again, the Rabbitohs did beat the Sharks in the finals, but it doesn't really come into the equation. I just feel like there's a more positive feeling about the Rabbitohs as we currently speak than the Sharks, and I think that's because of how the Sharks ended at the end of the year. Lucas says, B- disappointing in finals. B- is rough, though. Panthers supporter 16 says, hey, BKRsport, getting married. Good on you, man. Jasper says, B. Dimitri says B+. B says A-. I can't give an A based on the way they got knocked out in the straight sets, to be honest with you. Get watch something else says B. Yeah, a lot of people saying B, like I gave them. Saturn Girl says B. Can't give them the B+ because of their straight set exit. Zane Potter says A- overachieved in my opinion. Didn't think they were a second place side the whole season and more of a 5th to 6th place side. I thought they were a top 4 side. I didn't think they'd come second, but I thought they would probably be a top 4 side after maybe about 10 rounds or so. So still relatively early in the season. But yeah, it's just a real poor end to the season is what's going to take it away from that A- for me, and also a B+. Positive year, but it's just something that didn't click at the end there. Yeah, Teague Wilton and Dal Finucane and Sasha Kelson, that's the one. Coming second and getting slapped twice is rough, absolutely. That's an A+ season for the Titans, mate. Jared Troy says, good consistent season for the Sharks until the finals where they were found out by the Bunnies. Yeah, and also choked the win against the Cowboys. They were literally 6 minutes away from a prelim final, the Sharks, and instead lost that game and then lost the second week as well. Like, they were like 6 minutes away from being the prelim. They're 6 minutes away from being a prelim. And they threw it away like that. Crazy, man. Just crazy. Justice says, they only played top 8 team 8 times and played Storm and Cowboys during Origin. That's an interesting thought process there. Didn't really consider that, to be honest with you. Jared Choi's a good consistent season for the Sharks until the finals. That's right. Brian Roberts says, it's true they did get the luck of the draw. They did a pretty decent draw there. Be interesting to see this draw next year for... with the Dolphins coming in, the Wish version of the Gold Coast coming in. That'll be super interesting. Oh, okay, my chat's just decided to completely refresh, so I can't actually see what you guys are saying right now. So we'll have to move on from this one then, because I can't actually see what you guys are saying until it refreshes. So hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you're new around here, and let's move on to the next team. I'm happy with the B rating there for the Sharkies, but I can understand why some people might have a B plus and whatnot. I don't think anything less than a B is acceptable though. I don't think anything less than a B is acceptable. I'm going to have to refresh this. I don't know why I did that. All right, next team here, and that is going to be the Melbourne Storm. It's the Melbourne Storm here, lads. The boys from Victoria who are probably not happy with this season. To be completely honest with you, they had a lot of injuries throughout the year, but you know the good teams get through it. We saw the Roosters, the Vanilla Coke Dolphins. You know, a lot of injuries this year. The Melbourne Storm, especially obviously Ryan Pappenhausen. I've seen a grade there that I disagree with massively, but we've got the Storm, who obviously I predicted for first. I did. I had them in first position. They're not coming in fifth. Now, the reason why these are green and those are red is that you have to get it within 2 spots. So, obviously, Panthers came third, so they were within 2 spots. And the Eels did come exactly fourth. And the Rabbitohs came exactly 7th. Everyone else was off by a couple more than 2 spots, which is frustrating. But, yeah, so the Storm, I had him in first and they came in 5th. Disappointing year for them overall. It was an impending loss coming for them when we got to the finals. Blunt Razor with the $2 dono. Bing bong bing. Thank you very much. Appreciate you do for the $2 dono. He's a Storm fan, Blunt Razor. Says A+, 2017 grand final was epic. You think this year was an A+ year for the Storm? You think that this year was an A+ year for the Storm? You got knocked out in the first week of finals at home, you muppet. But thank you very much for your $2 dono. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, for me, the Storm just didn't really have a good year overall at any stages, really. And the thing is that at the beginning part of the year, I remember the conversation was more about how I kept saying the Storm will find their rhythm. The Storm will find their rhythm. And as they kind of started to find their rhythm, when they beat the Sharks 24-18, beat the Warriors 7-10, beat the Knights 50-2, 42-6, they then played the Panthers and got pumped. And then played the Cowboys and got pumped. But this was when Munster wasn't there. You had Harry Grant playing halfback. You had, Potatoes playing in positions that they'd never played in before in their life. Like Harry Grant playing halfback? Shit, man. Now, what's going on there? So the point of the matter is that the Storm, their season was crucified by injuries. And came in 5th, but got knocked out first week. For expectations-wise, I'm sorry I got to do this. But overall, it's actually a positive that I'm saying this about your team here in the Storm. But this is a failed year for the Storm. It is. It's a failed year for the Storm. They expect greatness. They expect to do a lot better. I just don't think that... I don't think this is a good year. I don't think this is a good year for the Storm. Next year, hopefully do better. But based on what we know of the Storm and what we expect of them, I think it's just a pure fail, man. I really do. I think it's just a pure fail. So it's unfortunate there for Melbourne. Howdy Gold Coast. It's unfortunate there for Melbourne, and I want to see what you guys say in the chat. Sutton Kelson goes D, so foul. Jasper says B-. Brighton says 15 injuries is rough. It is rough, man, but like it just kind of... I guess St. Potter's probably right with a C, to be honest with you. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's kind of positive there's a foul, though, considering that they still came 5th, but just for me, I expected so much more of them. And even when Pappenhausen was there, it didn't look like they were exactly the best team ever, but they did have some really good results before they started getting injuries. But it was also, like I was saying as well, like they were getting some great results, but we've also got to consider that they were against the Warriors, the Knights, and the Dragons. They beat the Warriors 70-10, the Knights 50-2, and the Dragons 42-6. All 3 of those teams, they were outside the top 8, and 2 of those teams finished bottom 4. 2 of those teams, just dreadful. Just simply dreadful in the Warriors and the Knights. So, yeah, look, I'm going to leave as a foul, but I definitely can understand where people are coming from if they say C- and C. Blunt Razor is definitely not. Zane Potter says, off-topic question, based on your ranking grand final stream last week, what tip would you rate this year's grand final? Probably, I would say terrible. Not removed from history. I think that it's terrible because it was just simply, not at any stage would you say it looked like a good game. I guess the Panthers did dominate, but it was a bit of a weird domination kind of deal. Like it was a shit one. It wasn't like Manly's domination of 40-0 back in 2008. It just wasn't like that. I'd probably say terrible, yeah. It was a pretty bad one. It was pretty poor. Yeah, it could be it's either C or a fail. I agree. Injuries made the season an absolute fail. Blind the Raiders says Jared Choice. They looked white at one stage with Pappy in great form. Then injuries messed them up. I think they put 70 on the Warriors. If I can remember, they did. Senpai says I actually forgot that Dimitri, but I remember all the Storm supporters saying they'd win the comp because of a similar streak in 2012. What did Dimitri say? Dimitri says C- or D. I remember when they lost about 5 games in a row. That was disgusting. They never looked really ready, especially after that they lost one of their best players. They need to improve. Yeah, well, I kept saying to you guys for a long time, the Storm have an impending loss coming. They have a loss coming. They have a loss coming. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it did in the first week of finals. Same point, I wouldn't say F. They had some huge wins at the start of the year, like that 70-10 win against the Warriors. Yes, it was only the Warriors, but they still scored 70 points. Yeah, but the Roosters also scored 70 points against the Tigers. And didn't I have them as a fail? I think I had the Roosters as a fail too. They scored, I think, 70 points against the Tigers, which is, I guess, only the Tigers, but... I think the Roosters and the Storm had a very similar year. Look, they first and second, and they came 5th and 6th. Like, I don't know. I just think that for both those teams, it was a fail if you think about where our expectations lied with them. Yes, Mohammed El Sani, just give me time, bro. Give me time. Charles Rager says injuries are part of the game. Don't let injuries make you too generous. Storm a C plus at best. C plus, I wouldn't give him a plus. C is the highest I would go. Yeah, and yes, injuries are part of the game. You are right, Charles. Lucas says, foul makes sense if you look at it from the view that the season was a throwaway for the C. Throwaway for the Storm. C. B makes sense if you look at them achieving that well with that many injuries. It just comes down to what team and what their outlying expectations were pre-season, I guess. Because, you know, if this was a season for the Titans or the Tigers or the Knights, that would be probably a B plus. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd probably be a B plus, but it's the Storm who are expected to be up there. And honestly, I don't know about the next year too. It could be going down a little bit, man. But overall, I'm going to fail. I can see where everyone's coming from if they don't agree with that one. All right, so we've got 2 more to go here. We've got 2 more to go. Hit that thumbs up button and smack the subscribe button. But all right, so the next team here is, this is the big one here, is the North Queensland Cowboys. Here we go. This is an interesting one. Obviously, it's no surprise to anyone that I tipped them in 16th position, right there. They came in 3rd. Every single person is fair enough to have said this team was a bottom 4 team pre-season. I want to reiterate this and I want to reaffirm it for everybody out there. Do not feel bad that you tipped this team in the bottom 4. Don't feel ashamed to have done it because pre-season, there were no signs that a season as good as this was going to happen. In hindsight, people are going to say, oh, you're stupid. You put them down there, they came top 4. Cool. In hindsight, I agree. It's stupid to put them down there. But you've got to consider, Chad Townsend wasn't in peak form, coming from the Warriors and the Sharks, who he just wasn't getting it going for them. They signed Tommy Dearden, a guy that just wasn't good for the Broncos, and they've rejected him. You know, most of these guys were young. We didn't know much about this team at all. Todd Payton just took them for 15th last year. 15th last year, right? So, although they had such a positive year, and although we're going to give them a really good mark here, that was not anywhere near expected by anyone who wasn't a Cowboys fan. If you're not a Cowboys fan, you had them as a top 4 position team, you are a psychic. You are a psychic, and everyone's going to come out and say, oh, I actually predicted them quite well. You probably didn't, but you don't have a social media, so, you know, people aren't going to be able to call you out on it. But I just want to say it out there for content creators or anybody out there, just please don't think that you are stupid for having this team in the bottom 4. But you have been proven wrong, and you've got to admit to that, because you can't hide from it. Right, but the Cowboys, finished in 3rd position. Great season for them. I'm going to give them a straight-up result here, and talk to you guys in the chat. And it's going to be an A. It's not going to be an A+. It's not going to be an A+. I want to put that out there. I don't give any teams an A+ unless you win the grand final. Because I did consider it, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I did consider it, though, based on the preseason expectations. It was a great season for the Cowboys. But they had a very similar ending to the Sharks did. And the Sharks did finish out of the 8 as well, mind you, last year. I would say that... I'd say the Cowboys, you couldn't give them an A+, because they didn't finish off the season perfectly. And I don't want to... Like, Cowboys fans, you are turning a little bit into Warriors fans. You blame everything on the referees. You had 73 minutes to overturn that result. 73 minutes to overturn that result of the 4 pass, which was a 4 pass, but... It's not that bad, but it was still 4 pass. Obviously, wrong call, admitted, fair enough. You know, you got taken away of a try there, and that's fine. You're right. You got given a try to the opposition team. You're playing with a -6 handicap or -4 handicap at that stage. But the fact of the matter is that you still can do that. You got 73 minutes to go. It's not the referee's fault you lost that game. The reason you lost that game is because the Eels wanted it more. They were more desperate. It's just a fact, right? It's just a fact. They wanted it more. I understand the pain and the hurt and how much it's frustrating, but you can't get knocked out there on the season. And I think the Panthers did the exact same thing to you. I've heard some rumblings that people saying the Cowboys would have played better than the Eels in the grand final. I disagree. I think that any team that goes in that grand final against the Panthers, it could have even been bigger than the Eels. It could have been bigger than what the Eels had to suffer. So it's kind of frustrating, the narrative that gets spun about this team. But you go to their season, and I just want to quickly have a look here. They actually started off with a loss, which was a bad loss as well against the Dogs. That was at home in North Queensland. I think that kind of reiterates everyone that they were right in regards to their preseason predictions. But then they smacked the Raiders. They smacked the Broncos. I think that was the first game we started to notice them a little bit more. Then they lost to the Roosters, and in a bad loss as well. So that's when people started to say, oh, no, this team actually is what it was. Then lost to the Warriors. Really, really poor. Beat the Raiders. The time that I noticed them, and this isn't being biased here, was when they beat the Titans, right? Because I expected the Titans. This is very polar opposite year for the Titans and the Cowboys. Cowboys expected low, Titans expected high. It was kind of a switcheroo in this game here, because the Cowboys dominated from start to finish against the Titans. Dominated from start to finish, and won that one super duper easy. And then went on to beat the Eels in a big game, and then the Knights, then the Tigers, then the Storm, but context needs to be given for that game. But when I realised this team wasn't going to be a premiership contender or an overall just outstanding team, it was going to be a game against the Panthers when they lost 22-0. Because you lose to 0, then it shows to me that you're not really going to be able to take this team down to the finals. And the Panthers are the team that you've got to look at every year for who you need to take down to the finals. 0, you've got no defence. If you score at least 4 points, 6 points, it means you did break them down one stage. Just try and figure out how to do that again and again. That was a game that kind of brought it back down a little bit. Had a fantastic season, man. You've got to give them an A. There's not a negative point besides the last little bit of run home. They're still winning games, but yeah, the last little bit of a run home was a bit depressing there for Cowboys overall. But they got it done. They got it done. Also, on the Cowboys, you also got to win based on problem the Tigers. So it's like, I don't understand why people really want to heavily involve the referees in discussions of the Cowboys, because you did get a nice little freebie 2 points there. But overall, A, easy, and simply said. But just don't feel bad about preseason predictions, because at the time it made sense. But alright, Zembai says that Roosters finals game, prison rules. Justice says fail? For the Cowboys? What? What? One Raider says B, XYZ says up at the Cowboys. Lucas says A++. No way. But you can make an argument. You can make an argument for A+, but A++ is better than Panthers. You crazy, man? Are you crazy, man? Didn't make the grand final. I had the Wooden Spooners. Yep, fair enough. Somebody says Cowboys are a wild card this season. Brighton Robinson says they played great footy this year. The Cows, A+ for me. I just can't get in the plus, but definitely an A. Zane Potter says A, Wooden Spoon favourites third place. I do think they have achieved a little bit, but 15th to third is an incredible climb. Not a preview again, but I do feel like this could be a bit of a one-hitter. I feel like it could be a bit of a one-hitter. I've been saying this all throughout the season. They did maybe overachieve a little bit. I don't think they go on to do exactly what they did this year, but they could probably still make the top 8 next year. They probably do, but I can see anyone from 1 to... Oh, no, leave Panthers alone. Anyone from 2nd to... I'd say 12th next year are going to be super close. I really do. I think that the teams, like you've got teams like the Bulldogs improving, you've got teams like the Titans improving with Kieran Foran and Sammy Verrills, you've got the Warriors getting their home games back, you've got the added pressure of having to beat somebody, Wish version, Aldi version of the Gold Coast and the Dolphins. You've got a whole heap of teams that are going, Knights regress, Dragons probably do regress, and a few other teams down there, but point matter is that anyone from 2nd through 13 next year is really difficult to read. So I don't know if the Cowboys do it again, but in the same sense, they're definitely favourites to be into the top 8, that's for sure. But I do get concerned about Chad Townsend's long-term ability. Great year, let's see if they do it again. I'm excited for it though. I'm excited to see if the Cowboys can do it again. Zane Potter says only Panthers should get the A+. I agree. Charles Rucker says our season turned around because of our injuries. If Hammer wasn't injured, Drinky would have spent the season in Q Cup. So Mitch Dunn and Lukey. That's interesting that you're saying, and I agree with you, it's interesting that you're saying the injuries are actually a positive for the Cowboys rather than a... Does that actually try and tell you that maybe Toddy Payton isn't isn't exactly the best part of it. Are you then saying that maybe Toddy Payton doesn't necessarily know exactly what he's doing and that he had to rely on the injuries to help him to know what he's doing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that, I guess that is a conversational point to be had. Sam says, Chris Thomas isn't going to be happy with you giving them an A. He'll say A+++. I'm pretty certain, isn't that the guy? I think I've spoken to Dane about this, Clarkey. I think he said that he's hidden like 100 accounts, that guy. So the guy's obviously a troll, fake account, whatever. But yeah, a muppet. I think he's made a couple of accounts on here once, and he just gets hidden because he's a moron. Jared Troy says, good to see these guys have a good season and make the top 4. I think that's who I'm thinking about. If it's not the right one, Zane Potter, ignore what I just said, but I'm pretty certain that's the one I'm thinking about. How most content creators have hidden that Muppets account. Jared Troy says, good to see these guys have a good season and make the top 4. Yeah, it's okay. Dimitri Shadow says, A, they shocked nearly everyone. They played some excellent footy. Mate, the prelim were really impressive. They were really impressive for the most part of the season. There was parts of the end part of the season that were a bit dubious, though. Sutton Kelton says, A, I was one of the many people tipping them for 16th. Good of you to admit it. 15th last year, and coming into this year, Townsend and Dearden were going to be in the main man, steering the ship, which felt poor. Exactly right. Amazing season. Zane Potter says, Cowboys would have lost by a lot more than the Eels they made it, in my opinion. I agree. That's what I'm saying, Zane. Everyone keeps saying this bit of a nonsensical, it's an opinion, but nonsensical opinion for me, that anybody, and I think it's because everyone's just hating on Parramatta, and I get it, I do, because Eels fans say, they sound really annoying, right? I sat with them. I was the loudest Eels fan in the bloody stadium, and I'm a Titans fan, right? But, yeah, I feel like with the Cowboys, They lost to the Panthers 22-0 earlier on the season. It would have been probably a similar margin, but greater in the grand final. So it could have been around the Manly versus Storm one if it was the Cowboys. And if it was the... who else was there? Sharks? I think Sharks might have been able to do... they were pretty poor defensively in the finals, the Sharks. But then again, they defended them nicely a couple of weeks ago in the regular season. I don't know. But I don't think anybody beats the Panthers on that day. I don't think anyone does. Big Shakes, I can't give the Cowboys an A. Why not? They can't. Everyone thought that we got bottom 4. I was 16th and they came 3rd and prelim. I can't give the Cowboys an A+ because of their schedule. They did have a really easy schedule, Big Shack. I just want to throw that out there. You are right there. You are right. The Cowboys did have an easier schedule. So, yeah, well, not really easy schedule, but an easier schedule. Blunt Ray says 2023 year of Storm resurgence. Bright Robert said, I think the Roosters would have done better than the Eels. Could be wrong. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, probably. I'll agree with you on that one. I will agree with you on that one. All right, let's go on to the last one here, guys. Let's go on to the last one here, and obviously you know who this one is. Obviously you know who this one is. It is going to be... Give me 1 second here as I get this done. It is going to be the Parramatta Eels. Oh, the Parramatta Eels. Obviously, I predicted them for 4th, and they came in 4th, exactly where I thought they would be. They were exactly the type of team I thought they would be this year. Nothing changed for me at any stage. I always knew that they were a finals team, and I always knew that they were probably going to be making the prelim. I tipped them all the way to the grand final, and then obviously when they got to the grand final, bang, buddy, Gonski. It was just very obvious that season, and I think that people were a little bit over the top in regards to their, specifically Hayden, but I think he's an Eels fan, in regards to their omens. But I will say this, your foundations of your season was started from bullshit, right? Because that round 1 game, everyone here knows how bullshit that first round 1 game was. Even Eels fans who I spoke to at the game were like, oh yeah, that was one of the biggest robberies of the season as well. The Eels versus the Titans game. You guys know me, if you were watching me stream that Titans-Eels game, I lost it. I don't swear on my channel much, but I lost it at that game. I started swearing at you guys. I started swearing over here, over there. If you want to see someone lose their mind, go back and watch that Eels Titans stream, because that was something, man. That was something. But, yeah, look, the Eels, they started the season quite good. They beat the Titans. Yeah, bullshit. Lost to the Sharks, though, which was a great game. Beat the Storm in a thriller at Amy Park. That was when we started to really notice them a lot more. Beat the Dragons 4-14. Beat the Titans in a fair game in that game at Seabus Super Stadium. Absolutely fair game. They beat us there. Did well there, though, the Gold Coast, to be honest with you. But then they lost to the Tigers. And that game against the Tigers was the game we all knew the Eels are still the Eels. The Squeals are still Parramatta. Parramatta is Parramatta. You can't change Parramatta. They're always Parramattas, right? So that game proved that to us. Absolutely. Then they beat the Knights 39-2. Then lost to the Cowboys 35-4 in Darwin, which was just shocking. Beat the Panthers, obviously. Lost to the Roosters. Beat Manly. See what I mean? Very 50-50. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Big Papa, don't remind me of the game. Big Papa, don't do it. Don't do it. Says 100 Titans deserve to win that game. Don't start me on that game again. But yeah, it's just very 50-50. Like they win one game, and then they go and lose to the Dogs 34-4. Right? Then they go beat the Roosters 26-16. And they go lose to the Rabbitohs 30-12. Then they go beat the Tigers 28-20. Then they go beat the Warriors 28-18. Then they'll lose to the Broncos 36-14. This was such a peak Parramatta season, just with a better finish to it, right? I'm gonna give him an A. I'm gonna give him an A, and I think it's a fair enough result here. It's definitely not an A+. I could understand if you give him like a B+, and I could understand if you give him an A-. I'm going to give him an A, but this was a very regular season for the Parramatta. It's just it had a better finish to it in regards to getting to the grand final. Well, they still got pumped. But it's definitely a good mark. It's a good mark regardless. But alright, let's go have a look at what you guys are saying. Lucas says, should have been A+, but Trigger, he's talking about the Cowboys. Biggie Shaq says A, Justice says A, Lucas B+. Same product says, you have to give them an A. They had some dreadful games, but they still made the grand final, absolutely. But those dreadful games just proved to us that we still knew what the Parramatta Squeals were like. We still knew what they were like. Sam Kelly says B. They had some embarrassing losses to the Tigers and Dogs, but had some amazing efforts against the Panthers and a full-strength Storm side. That grand final loss sort of tainted their season, though. The fact is, they're in the grand final, though. You know, how do you give a team a B if they got to the grand final? Especially a team that hasn't won the grand final in 36 years. They had a 50-50 opportunity. Like, you could make an argument 70-30, or sorry, 30-70. Based on the team, right? But they had a 50-50 opportunity of winning the grand final for the first time in 36 years. They didn't do that, fair enough, but they still made it there. They still gave themselves that opportunity. And on grand final day, anything can happen. You know, one change. If Sivo catches that ball with about 20 or 25 minutes to go, maybe they come back and win the game. You know, if he catches that ball. Or maybe if the Eels hadn't tried to play the Panthers at their own game in the first 5-10 minutes. Maybe they win that game. Didn't happen. But grand finals, you get into a grand final, anything can happen. No matter who you are, you can be 8th versus 1st. Point of the matter is that you have a chance because you're in a 50-50 game against them and we know how sport works. B Shakes, what do you give the Storm? I think fail. Fail for the Storm. Fail. Big Papa says, oh no, he's talking about that game. Don't start me. Oh, geez, okay. One of my lights just went out. Big Papa says, my team were overachievers, so A- B+ for me. You think the Eels were overachievers? I think they were just simple achievers. I don't think anything really... I think they were overachievers. I think they did their season and it was expected. Gabby Kalush says, Eels could have had hope in the grand final if they scored those late 2 tries like 20, 30 minutes ago. That's cool. Didn't happen though. But like I'm saying here, just because they're in the grand final, it meant they gave themselves an opportunity to win the grand final. And by doing that, I got to give them an A. Lucas says, and can't forget Edwards making that crazy try saver. Eels got so close many times before their day. So it was a great try saver. It's still not a Saddler. Try saver. Edwards was in an unbelievable position for that compared to Saddler. It was a great try saver nonetheless. And Edwards, clear. I called the Club Churchill. I said to you guys for the week leading up to it, Club Churchill, Dylan Edwards. Said on my vlog. If you haven't seen the vlog yet, go and check it out. I said Dylan Edwards. But it was still a bit of a regularity for a fullback. Like, you're expected to make that tackle there. But in the same sense, big moment, and it stopped the Eels from coming back at that time, absolutely. Jared Choice and Parramatta made the top 4, so I give them an A. Well, I didn't give the Sharks an A, and they made the top 2. But in the same sense, each team has different kind of thought processes. But guys, that's going to do us here for today's video. Tomorrow night, we're going to start streaming and doing Rugby League World Cup content. We're going to do some A-League games this weekend, maybe some Premier League games this weekend. We're going to be absolutely smacking out the Rugby League World Cup. So it's going to be a massive week here, so definitely come back tomorrow and tune in as we go over. Probably, I think we'll be Group A. Group A. Who's Group A? Let's go quickly have a look here. Who will be Group A? This actually kind of effectively does us for Rugby NRL content this year. Well, until I do a little bit later on. Mine is do some of those drafts as well. Rugby League World Cup groups. So what group are we going to be going through tomorrow? We're going to go through groups individually, not all at once. Big Papa says, until Maury says you are not the father, then it's not proven. Parrot demands a DNA test. Seriously though, Panthers well deserved an chance, absolutely. So England, France, Greece, and Samoa is what we'll do tomorrow. Then we've got Australia, Fiji, Italy, and Scotland. Then we've got Ireland, Jamaica, Lebanon, New Zealand. Maybe we'll do two. Maybe we'll do Men's Group A and Men's Group B tomorrow. Because then at least we get Australia, Fiji, England, and Samoa in the one. And then we'll do on Friday, Ireland, Jamaica, Lebanon, New Zealand. Cook Islands, Papua New Guinea, Wales, and Tonga. That's what we'll do. Alrighty, guys. So there we go. So tomorrow we'll be doing Men's Group A and Group B. And then on Friday we'll do Group C and Group D. But like I said, guys, I appreciate you as usual. Hit that thumbs up button. Bang. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I will see you guys then. Alright, guys. Thanks for watching. Catch you later.